Hello dear Sea Wolves and welcome back to the show. Amazing, we actually made it to 30,000 subscribers yesterday, just around the time of the show. So yeah, congratulations to all of us, I guess. It really feels very special that this, it really came out of the COVID time where many of us were locked in the house, and I was just starting this had this idea of doing a sailing show specifically about the technical side of the IMOCA races, and now look where we are. It's so cool to be an official media partner of the race and to have all of you along for the ride. So thank you all very much for subscribing. Keep subscribing. Now we have a new goal of 40,000, and I checked this morning. We're already well on the way to that also. So very nice to see that we're growing so quickly. And well, for that little celebration, I made a little extra video. It's more of like a short, it's only like 1.5 minutes. Because first of all, well, I just was kind of working on something cool and I thought this was a cool occasion to kind of release it. Also, some of you have been asking me, like, do we have like a short video or something I can sort of use to get my friends into the Sea Wolves as well? So I think this particular little film will be very well suited to explain to family and friends why you're watching this show every day. So that'll be a nice sort of double bonus on that front. Okay, well, you've probably seen that I have something extra delicious for the little bit celebration. Everybody has their own way of celebrating, and when life offers small victories, this is one of my particular things that I like to do to celebrate. For those who know, obviously I can't mention it because we don't want to get demonetized, but are you ready? There's also, by the way, a banana here. I don't know why there's a banana, but there's probably some significance to that as well. If you know, you know. A lot to celebrate yesterday, I guess. Wolves, are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1 to 40K subscribers. Amazing. Now, a lot of the field still reeling off the new speed distance 24-hour record by Jon Richomme yesterday, and here's what he actually had to say about it himself.
Run in between the ridge, that light spot we had before, and the ITCZ was quite short, so I wasn't even looking, at beating it because I thought it would be less than 500 miles, but apparently I was fast enough to beat Nicolulu, which is my main pleasure, is beating Nicolulu in life.
That's your main pleasure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, it's good. I really pushed hard. I was, my goal was to really catch the guys in front because I'm really afraid of a breakaway near Brazil. So, I thought I could cover up some miles during that day, and it did work out, but it's not paying off too much today because I'm stuck in a light spot and it's been like this for like 3 hours. I'm doing like 3 or 4 knots, so it's not looking good for the next schedule.
So you're coming down into the doldrums then. How the South Atlantic though does look good?
Yeah, I think it does. I looked at it about 2 days ago. I've stopped looking at it because I don't know my exit time out of the light winds, and once I get out, I'll do some routings again. But yeah, I saw there was a nice stable cold front near Brazil that was maybe cutting the high pressure in two, so it could, I guess, a nice passage south, which would be nice because, I mean, this is a slow trip so far. Huh? I know I've beaten the record and we've beaten it twice, but in between these days, it's just been so slow.
Now, as far as what is going on in the fleet today, we are seeing the entire fleet slowly on entering the area of the doldrums, and that means mostly a lot of rain and bad weather in general.
Hi everyone, we are officially inside the Poteau Noir, the doldrums. The sky is grey, and not now, but earlier we had a few massive rain clouds with big wind shifts of 90 degrees, 22 knots of wind, then 8 knots of wind, which is all good. a bit earlier than expected. I thought I had a bit more time to go fast before I entered the zone, but well, it's quite well visible on the set picture as well. So now we are changing sometimes sails between the bigger J0 or code 0 and the smaller jib when the wind goes forward and goes stronger. So that gives a pretty calm day here so far. Nevertheless, the sail change and these temperatures makes you sweat, and I took the opportunity of a great shower earlier and feel fresh now. And I'm resting a bit to be ready for what might be an intense night ahead of me, with probably lots of activity, changing course, sails, trim, and activity on the bridge. I hope you're having a good day at home, and keep following. Thank you for watching. Everything is well on board. Like the sky, it's a bit grey and calm. I'm also quite calm today, which is nice, and not so many news today. More tomorrow. Cheers.
Now this is fully to be expected, so the barriers both for entry to the doldrums on both sides, so on both hemispheres separately, are always wrought with thunderstorms, low wind areas and buckets and buckets and buckets of rain. That's because there's just a lot of weather kind of clashing with each other around the borders of this particular area. So we have more or less 2 days of that to look forward to as the skippers slowly, or maybe even slightly quickly, make their way through. But as far as weather goes, it actually looks really, really nice. I think the race is getting double lucky with no mega storm going out of Biscay. Okay, sure, the Azores High present somewhat of a quiet challenge this time. Nothing to be done about that. But it looks like the rest of the race, at least until we get to South America, looks pretty straight forward. So dive in with me here, let's take a look. If you look at the current field, we see that Thomas Ruyant now, in a genius way, has put up a lead. So actually doing very, very well, and about 22 miles ahead of Sam Goodchild in the second position. And how Thomas was able to do this is actually quite a while ago. So if you remember, before we actually went into the Azores High, Thomas was the most western boat. He really went out of his way to make a lot of westing. And right now you can see he's also just the most western boat in the head foiling fleet. And that has just translated, as he probably predicted, into just slightly more wind. And so at this crucial moment, because this is really the moment where the race begins, where taking risks, running ahead starts to matter, because after the doldrums here, they're going to have a clean shot to get to South America and inject themselves into the strong winds around Antarctica to really start making that circle around the world. And Thomas has managed, more or less by making some choices more or less a week ago, a little bit more than a week ago, to put himself in a really great tactical position. So kudos to him for this, because yeah, well played, I would say, tactically, and well deserved lead. You can see that he's running away a little bit from that first rest of the first foiling pack. Interesting to see that one of our favorite friends of the show here, Pip Hare, is in position 13, but extremely on the western side also, so that gives her also a little bit more wind. She's doing in about 7 knots right now, while we see, well, almost 7, yeah, while we see the rest in about like 6, 5, 2, so she has a little bit better wind, just like Thomas Ruyant. And I don't think, like, if she can keep up the pace, she might actually gain a place or two more in the next like 10 hours or so. That'd be nice to see Pip on like place 10, maybe even 9. Could be possible over the next few hours. She's in a great tactical position, because the more west you are, the more ability it gives you to also sail into the wind a little bit, creating more relative wind when you need it, as opposed to if you're less west, that you just don't have the option to cut back into the course like that, and you have to work with the wind that you have, and you can't really artificially raise it by going into it more, unless you want to put yourself in an even worse position later. So very well played on Pip's side as well, tactically. Well, then we see Sam Goodchild. He is interestingly enough in second position, but much more on the eastern side. You can see that also ahead of him, a little bit some lighter winds than what we see Thomas Ruyant having. So he might fly away even a little bit more. And yeah, that brings us to the interesting stuff, because you can see that the foiler pack, which is pretty much like most of the foilers, of the high-end foilers, like all together here, that they are starting a bit to spread out. So we have this very strong cluster kind of around the Richon here, and then the rest is already starting to spread out a little bit. If we go to the weather picture now, we see that that's because most of this later group are already in some quite light winds. So they got like 4.1, 4.2, while the rest has, like I said, 6, 7, and a few of them even a little bit more, especially Thomas doing right now 9.3 knots of wind, giving him just a little bit extra edge on speed. Him doing 20 knots as compared to Pip, for example, at 15, 17. Sam also at 14. Yeah, the rest basically, well, Justin a little bit better, 18, but all lower than what Thomas is doing, because he just has free rein and a little bit more wind. And this system is going to spread out. So what I predicted yesterday, that we're going to see the first real break. It's interesting that we're just seeing Thomas Ruyant run away, but I think we're going to get a bit of a split kind of right in the middle. So from Benjamin Dutroux up, maybe Clarice Kramer might also still be in that latter group. She's like right on the cusp, I would say. Because if we fast forward 5 hours, 8 hours, 11 hours, you can see that especially here in the 8-hour window, that zone of lower wind is really spreading out a bit. And 8 hours is just enough distance for the front group to kind of make it to where Thomas is now and just continue to have some wind. While the rest is going to, well, they're not going to stand still, but 3.3 knots, like it's really not very much wind. So they are inevitably going to slow down a little bit. And that means that by the end of today, we're probably going to have 3 kind of distinct groups as we really go into the full-on race, where kind of the natural barriers are a little bit more out of the way and it really comes down to tactical racing. And that's going to be, well, Thomas Ruyant kind of on his own. He might run away, he might like double the distance maybe if he keeps running like this. So he might be ahead, instead of 20 something miles, he might be like 40 or 50 miles ahead by the time the show goes live. So we can check when we're actually chatting here during the live show if that came true or not. And if he actually ends up kind of going, you know, into the southern Atlantic with a 40 or 50 nautical mile lead, that is, I mean, hats off, well done to Thomas for doing the start of the race very strategically, putting himself in a great position, and yeah, well-deserved first place and a great chance for him to yeah, start this part of the race with a very strong lead. Then we're going to have that second group, which is going to be most of this closely clustered group of foilers together, so kind of ending with Clarice Kramer and starting with Sam Goodchild. So that's kind of place 1 to 12, maybe 13, because Pip is sort of also in this group, but she's just a bit more to the east. I think they are going to keep the wind and they're going to keep going, while the rest, so Benjamin Dutroux and well, Boris Herman is probably going to just be able to, because he's a bit more western, to be with the front group, but he might also become like the leader of the second group, it's possible. So kind of, let's say Boris and onward is going to be the second group that are going to have, it's not going to be massive, but they might have like a 40 or 50 mile gap between them and the front foiler, say. And then behind that we get a few of the like a bit more later foilers mix up with the non-foilers, which are currently, I think, led by Jean Lecamp, technically speaking. But there are also a few non-foilers here. Tanguy and Lewis is also in a very good position. So I would say that they're actually kind of technically leading more now than Jean, even though his position is slightly better just because of where he is. But he doesn't have like great wind ahead of him. He's not doing like very strong speed right now with 4.3 knots, while Louis Duc, for example, and where is he? Yeah, Tanguy is doing actually really nice speeds, doing like 14.4 and 13.9. So they're going to be leading the non-foiling group soon. And so that's going to be our 3 groups going further in the race. And yeah, it's a good bet that the distance between those is going to slowly grow. We might hopefully see a few guys also separate from the front pack, so you might see a Sam or a Hume or Justin Matreau or maybe Charlie also run away, because yeah, these boats are really fast and they're really getting into the situation now where they can start to get a bit more risky, where they can push the boats a little bit more really to the extremes to get a lead. As in the Southern Ocean itself, it's going to be more also about survival. And if you can kind of go in there with a good lead, that's very nice. So I think that we're going to see some real good attempts by the front guys and girls also to kind of translate this current position in the front group to more of a separate single or maybe duo, kind of breaking off of the front, still fighting for a position. And then we get to the big question of what will they do as far as course go. The traditional trajectory is to take kind of the southern route, so to go here underneath the St. Helena High, which puts them in a nice downwind situation and then make it through. There is also the option to go over, but I think in this particular, like how the scenario is right now, and also if we click through the weather, like 20 hours, 38, like St. Helena looks pretty stable actually. It is likely going to present a bit some problems near the Cape of Good Hope, because it's very big underneath the Cape already for like more than a week now. And you can see this kind of white area, which is the ice exclusion zone, so the skippers can't go there. And you can see that the wind is actually like right underneath that, so that would force the skippers to go through this area with not so much wind, or dip right across the ice exclusion zone in order to get as much wind as possible. We've seen that a few times in previous races also, with skippers just going very close to the ice exclusion zone. But that is a bit more risky because it's called the ice exclusion zone for a reason. So that's where we have icebergs and other trouble that could be problematic. Last time, of course, we saw one boat actually sink there, PRB around Cape Good Hope, because of hitting something in the water. We still don't know what, but yeah, these are real risks. Yeah, it's gonna get interesting. And yeah, I guess that is the analysis for today. And so that's it for the show today, Wolves. Thank you all again for watching. Again, thank you for 30,000 subscribers. It feels really cool, and it promises that we're going to have a lot of chances to do some super cool stuff also after the race. So I'm really looking forward to that already. Also really amazing. And yeah, for today, make sure to like, subscribe. Like I said, perhaps if you want to convince your friends to join the Sea Wolves, also show them the 1.5 minute video that we dropped as a kind of 30,000 subscriber celebration video. And I wish you all an amazing evening. Ciao, ciao.